Josh Rubin with the Rubin team. Let's go take a look.
Hi, everybody. It's Josh Rubin here with Douglas Elliman in New York City. Today is Wednesday, May 8th, joined by none other than my friend Hayden Anderl from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Coeur d'Alene and Hayden.
Yeah.
Say that 10 times fast. I wanted to find out what is going on in Coeur d'Alene.
You know, Coeur d'Alene, for those that don't know, is kind of a small area up in North Idaho. I would say that most similarly gets compared with Lake Tahoe in California. Definitely an outdoor paradise, beautiful lakes, ski mountains, rivers, all kinds of things you can do. A lot of great golf, some famous golf out there, and been a really, really hot real estate market since the pandemic. Really, it's exploded up here.
Well, it's interesting. You know, I'm glad that you brought that up, Hayden, because one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was the effect that the pandemic had on areas like Coeur d'Alene. And of course, I think Coeur d'Alene had some of the most explosive growth of any market in the entire United States. So what do you attribute that to specifically?
You know, it's always interesting because everybody you talk to might have a different answer for that who moved up here. But I would say a big part of it was people looking to escape, the city lifestyle, whether that be full-time or part-time, and really be able to enjoy the outdoors. Obviously, during COVID, that was something that never really turned off. People could still get outside, get on the lake, get up to the mountains, go fishing on the rivers, do all that good stuff, mountain biking. And, a lot of folks were just trying to get out of that hustle and bustle and the restrictions. And, Coeur d'Alene stayed pretty open. And again, especially in the summer, it's just a huge destination for folks to visit and enjoy all the lakes and opportunities that we have. So that coupled with, at the time, very reasonable real estate pricing led to a massive inflow of people moving up here and buying real estate, whether that be primary residences or second homes.
Yeah. And was there any specific sort of demographic shift that you noticed as far as people coming from Chicago or LA or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say like our biggest feeder markets have been California has always been a major one, all areas of California. The Seattle area has been a big one. It's only about a 4.5-5 hour drive from Coeur d'Alene. Portland, and then we've actually gotten some folks, a lot of second home folks from Vegas that are looking to escape the summers in Las Vegas and spend some time up here. We've got a good consortium of folks from Vegas up here, so it's been a mix.
How far is it from Vegas, Hayden?
I've never made that drive, and don't plan to, but it's a couple hour flight. It's not a bad one at all. My family has a place down in Indian Wells, and that takes about 24 hours to drive down there. So for Californians, it's more of a true, getting out of California, moving up here. But I grew up here. This is where my family's from. So I've always had an appreciation and a love for Coeur d'Alene. And I think a lot of people realize that, come 2020, 2021 and so on. And it's still continued to this day. We're still, a pretty busy real estate market, I think, in comparison to a lot of areas of the country.
Yeah, well, it's known to be a place that a lot of well-known people go, some famous people, like George Clooney, Wayne Gretzky. So if it's good enough for George Clooney, then I'm sure it's good enough for me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's we've gotten a couple of private golf clubs that have really exploded up here. Gauzer Ranch is a Discovery property, so they've gotten a lot of the big stars out there, and thankfully a lot of those folks too. I've had a chance to play in some golf tournaments against guys like John Elway, who's an awesome guy, and people that just are living their lives and just want to be normal people and want to do the same fun stuff that everybody else wants to do. So it's been great, and it's helped the local economy and local businesses. So overall, it's been a crazy ride, and it definitely has. Some of the pricing has exploded. Our median home price up here right now is just over 500. When I started in 2016, it was less than half of that.
Wow. Interesting. So just in the last, call it 8 years, you've essentially doubled, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I would say really 2020 on has really gotten to that place, because it really, 2016, 2017, 2018 was more so just normal growth years, 2-3%, whatever have you. And then we get into the pandemic, and things just exploded. I've been doing new construction a long time, and we were seeing 6, 7, 8 offers on a starter home with escalating clauses, and you're getting all the letters from people's families, and although you're doing well financially, it's actually not a fun time, because you're saying no to people a lot more than you're saying yes. So for every one, hey, congratulations, you've got 6 or 7, hey, I'm sorry, but somebody else got the property.
Yeah. It's interesting. I just had multiple offers on one of our listings, and frankly, I didn't fully appreciate that was going to be the case going in. I felt like we were priced on the higher end of the spectrum, and we wound up, a little bit above that. So while the seller is thrilled, colleagues who were representing buyers who didn't get the property, which there were 2 or 3, I think we had about 4 offers on it. They said, well, congratulations. I said, yeah, now all I need to do is find, another one of these particular properties so that I can do 4 deals rather than 1, which you would think would be relatively easy, but, seldom is it that fortuitous that you'd wind up being able to do 4 deals from 1 just by calling the neighbors. And,
right.
In situations when you do have the multiple offers, sometimes you get these letters, the sort of what I call heartstring letters, which is putting a face to the name and trying to humanize the selection process. But from what I understand, that they actually made that illegal. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I've actually been, I'm going through the license renewal process right now. And so I've been taking some classes, and it can get into a tricky situation with those that can be kind of in the, theoretical discriminatory zone. So it's, oftentimes they say it's better to just to not do it. And so that's something that I've not seen for quite some time now, just because at the time when everybody knew, we've got 4 or 5, 6, 7 offers, I think 9 was my record that I ever had on one property. But that was super common at that point, and it's really come down because we have homes that are available and that are not gone in under 24 hours. So I've seen people take a step back from that.
So, it's interesting. You mentioned the number of offers that you've had on different listings. And I remember years ago, I had the opportunity to represent a co-op board. In the city, 80% of the inventory here is made up of co-ops. And so the co-op board actually owned one of these units where there was a rent-controlled tenant who had been there for 50 years before the building had converted from a rental building to the co-op, and the sponsor, for whatever reason, was out of the picture. And so when this tenant had moved on, they had the opportunity to sell this apartment, and they were mandating that it be renovated because it hadn't been touched in 50 years. So it was literally falling apart. Like, you couldn't live there. You had to do a renovation. And of course, the majority of buyers out there on the streets in New York haven't been through a renovation before. So,
sure.
Obviously when you don't know what it takes, you will sort of double and triple the price that it might actually cost you to do a renovation. They'll think that a $30,000 renovation will cost $100,000, and so on. So when I met them, as part of their process internally, they hired an appraiser, and the appraiser came in, and just to kind of get his check and move on to the next assignment, he told them that this particular property was worth $350,000. And this is probably, 15, 16 years ago. And even at that time, just speaking to this board member over the phone without even seeing the apartment, I knew instinctively that this is a one bedroom based on its location. And even if it were in decrepit condition as it was being described to me, I knew that this is worth more than $350,000. So I went in and I saw the apartment and I met with the board. And sure enough, it was in horrible condition. You couldn't live there. You had to renovate it. And I said, look, my intuition and having reviewed the comparable data tells us that, this is probably worth somewhere around $500,000. Oh, wow. So if I were to price it, I would probably price it somewhere at or just below that $500,000 threshold. But you have this appraisal, and the board is willing to go along with the appraisal. So why not price it there and let the chips fall where they may? And you're going to sell it for more than that. Don't worry about that. You're going to get multiple offers, and you're going to go to a second round or best and final or whatever you call it. And I said, okay. So we put it on for $350,000, and the phone would not stop ringing in my office. Literally, I could not answer the phone. I just had to forward it to voicemail. I recorded a new greeting. I said, hey, if you're calling about 13 Downing Street, we're going to be there Thursday from 11 to 1. Just feel free to stop by. So we get there 10:30, 10:45 on Thursday. There was a line of people down the block wrapping around the corner. And I literally had to have a colleague come over and help me with crowd control. And I said, hey, don't let more than 3 groups up at a time. When one group comes down, you can let another one in. And so that's what we did. We had 64 offers on this property. We had so many offers that I had to put them in a spreadsheet to keep track of the names, the contact details, who was representing who, their qualifications. And what I did is I told the board the situation, and they said, okay, well, present the 10 people that you think are the best fit. And I did that, and then they said, okay, let's go to a best and final. We went to best and final. We sold it for $535,000. Wow. So that was, almost $200,000 over the asking price. It was probably 70 or 80% more than the original asking price. And so that's why I often tell people, whether you're on the low side or the high side, prices are often suggestions, right? It's just, it's kind of arbitrary. And sometimes in your market where I'm sure it's efficient, you can say, hey, here's a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house. The last one just sold for, how much do you think a regular, nothing special 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house is going to cost in Coeur d'Alene?
We're probably in the mid 4s.
Right. So let's say it's $475.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can say, look, Tom and James just sold their house down the block, $475. So we're going to price this one $475. Right. It's very efficient. And so in New York, it's more experiential because it can be nuanced with something as little as the building across the street blocking your light or not blocking your light. You can be one block, which is probably all of 200 yards from 7th Avenue, where there's a subway, there's a bus, there's constant traffic, pedestrian, cars, commercial and otherwise. And you could be a half block off 7th Avenue, or you could be 150 yards, west of that location, and you can have a totally different experience. And so your property could go up by 10 or 15% just based on that. So it's super nuanced. And so, but it's very efficient, and the market is going to decide, which way it goes. And so in that case, we had somebody who wound up recognizing the value, and they were qualified. So, in your case, having those 9 offers, it can be quite a. But take us back. Your parents were in the business, and your grandparents.
Yeah. So my grandfather actually immigrated to New York from Germany back in the day, and learned English, went through electrician school, became a home builder. And we actually still have some old advertisements from Stony Brook, New York is where they lived. And that's where my dad was born. And they were selling houses for, I think it was $20,000 at the time.
Right.
Obviously different era, but he moved over to Coeur d'Alene from Stony Brook, New York, when my dad was, I believe he was 10 years old. So he was a builder here. He did some development work here as well. And then my dad eventually took over the construction company, which he got out of in the early 2000s and moved to development primarily. So residential subdivisions. We're now on our second condo. We did one 4-story wood frame condo on the water that we kind of did ourselves, but we're into a much bigger project now, which we can chat about later. But he's been in the development world. He, as we talked about previously, never wanted me to get into real estate with the cyclical nature and the ups and downs. Obviously, he lived through several recessions and market adjustments, call them. But I worked in Seattle post college and was working for a startup with some Fortune 500 clients. Decided to move back here in 2016. Buy some real estate I wanted to buy and not commute and have to buy something a couple hours out of downtown Seattle. So ended up buying real estate here in 2016, which was obviously a good move with where prices went and where rates were at the time. And I got into real estate, had a very slow first year, and then started working with a builder. And I've now been working with that builder for the past 7.5 or so years. I've added another builder and am now doing that condo project as well. So really I've got kind of three major new construction clients along with my normal business. We also do development work, some apartments, some multifamily, a little bit of commercial mixed in. So really a kind of a wide breadth of things and not the normal, just a day-to-day agent. So I've been fortunate
How did you connect with that builder? I mean, you went from the first year in the business wondering, how the hell you were going to make a go of it, pretty slow, as you put it, to all of a sudden, connecting with this builder and your business just kind of started to take off, right?
Yeah. So the first thing I did was I continued consulting for my old company, my first year in real estate, to just try to keep the funds coming in.
I'm sorry, your old company was what?
It was a marketing startup in Seattle that's gotten since purchased and under a new name. But that was something that I just did a little bit, on the side just to make some more money.
Yeah.
And the first way to go about it was getting some lots for this builder, a small amount of lots and trying to win that business and say, hey, give me a shot on this group of lots. Let me show you what I can do. Let me take a look at your processes. Let me, see what, how you handle things and see what I can add. And then really, it started out slow. And then one of the biggest things that I did was I found a piece of property. It was a pretty large older house on 20 acres. And I ended up buying that. And we renovated the house, flipped the house, and broke that 20 acres into 66 lots, along with obviously the original home. And so I went to that builder and I said, hey, I'll sell you exclusively all of these lots in, a 2 takedown schedule. This is a project I put my own money into. And he ended up doing really well on that project. And that kind of, I think, solidified that relationship. And my goal has been, and a big part of my job has been finding dirt, for both builders, because they're really on different ends of the spectrum. One of the builders is entry level, builds over 100 homes a year. And then my other builder, Atlas Building Group, does a lot of higher end stuff. We range from 600 to 3 million, and I was able to find them a luxury subdivision right on the river. And it just,
when you say a luxury subdivision, I assume it wasn't a luxury subdivision when you found the opportunity. Is that right?
Correct. It was actually a really unique scenario. This is an interesting one. So a lady from this area won the Powerball years ago. And I don't remember how much she won, but obviously enough.
Yeah.
And she purchased an old mill site along the Spokane River, which is right in Coeur d'Alene. A great location. And she tried to sell it. It was a convoluted deal. Eventually, the city of Coeur d'Alene actually bought all of that land and then broke it into chunks, commercial, multifamily, single family, townhome, and they put it up for blind bid auction. So myself and a couple of partners went into that and made a blind bid, and we ended up getting the premier 30 lots that were, water view. And that ended up being a 30 lot subdivision we've been working on the last couple of years, with homes from 2,400 to 3,700 square feet, ranging from 1.2 to 2.7 million. Really high-end modern homes, some gorgeous stuff from Atlas Building Group. And it's been a great project. It's also led to a lot of custom builds for them, which is a big thing for me. Not that I'm always involved in those, but anytime I can help, my builder clients grow their business, I find there to be value in that.
So the Powerball winner bought this lot, for lack of a better way to describe it. And how did the city take over?
She flipped it to the city.
So she voluntarily resold it.
Correct. Yep. Made a couple $1 million. City got it. There was a lot of reclamation and general soils stuff that had to be fixed with it being an old mill site. It was called the Atlas Mill. And so they did all that, got everything geo-certified, made sure the soil was all buildable. And then, the people were out buying finished lots. So that was an interesting one. And, I find that when you have a client, whether it's just a normal, one-off selling their personal home, or a builder client, anytime you can provide them with, a big piece of value, that helps grow their business, or helps them, personally, if they're just a normal client. That's huge for your business down the road, because people remember that. People know that you were looking out for them, that hey, I found this opportunity. I wanted to bring it to you first. You take care of people, and they take care of you, is kind of something I've always tried to live by.
Yeah. Well, I always say that we trade in a currency of trust,
Mm-hmm.
and anything that we can do to, sort of confirm our integrity and build trust along the way is the better that we're going to do. And a lot of it is actions, right? But a lot of it is also the cadence of how we communicate, and, doing the things that we tell people that we're actually going to do. I was on a call today with a new prospective client that was referred to us by a friend of ours in New Jersey. And, it's sort of a multi-layered decision-making process, because it's a father and two sons. And so we were all on the Zoom call this morning, and we were talking about something that needed to be fixed in the apartment. And the father said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. If you have your guy come over and fix this thing, we will work with you. And I said, well, as much as I appreciate that, and I will help you get, this thing fixed, we get to work for you once we're retained. And you can see from our online reviews that we actually do what we say. And that's one of the core foundations of our business. So I would refer you to those reviews. And if you're comfortable, then you'll retain us. And, the first thing we'll do is get this door fixed. And he said, okay. So it's really just, it's a foundation of trust and respect that we have between our clients. And, we're pretty good at that and maintaining it. So just like you're describing with, bringing the developer in and sort of handing him this project on a silver platter, you're basically kind of serving him a fat pitch, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that, and, my like I said, my grandfather and father have worked here. So, my dad is, and my grandfather was a handshake guy. And that's something that I try to be. And I do hear that from people a lot, there's no handshake people left in the business. And, it's not the same as it used to be. And so I try to live by that. And if you give somebody your word and say, hey, I'm going to get this done for you, or I'm going to meet you at this time, or the property is going to be live at this point, you do everything in your power to live up to that word that you gave. And that I've always found goes a really long way.
Yeah. What are some of the more notable transactions on individual homes that you've had the opportunity to work on?
I had an interesting one last summer. Beautiful property on an acre on the Spokane River. This is in Post Falls, Idaho, about 10, 15 minutes from Coeur d'Alene. And it was a custom built home. Had won some previous awards in the Parade of Homes, but just all single level, really stunning, large shop, lawn to water, boat dock. So I actually got a random call from someone I had not met. He said, "Hey, I love the property," and asked me some questions. I answered those questions, and he said, "Okay, well, I'm gonna buy a ticket and I'm gonna fly in tomorrow. Can you meet me on Sunday out there?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And you never know with stuff like this. People say they're gonna fly in, they don't fly in. Who knows?
Yeah.
He comes in. He's a great guy, somebody who's a friend now, and he ends up saying, the property was listed at 5, and he says, "Well, throw me out an offer at 4.5." And so we actually end up getting the deal done. Surprisingly, it's kind of his dream retirement place. He goes out, buys a brand new boat, buys 2 brand new jet skis, is loving it. Grandkids are coming up, family. It's fully furnished, so he just moves in and is immediately, friends with the neighbors. Everything's great. I get a call a month and a half, 2 months later, and he says, "Hey, you're not going to believe this, but grandkids moved, and therefore I have to move to Florida. I need you to have this property listed by the end of the week, and I need you to get me whole. And I also need to sell my boat that has under 10 hours on it and my jet skis." And so within 2 months, I represented the buyer and then resold the listing. I actually got him enough to get out whole with a little bit of an extra spiff, and got the boat and the jet skis sold to the new owners, who have, I think, 5 or 6 kids. They're great people. The house is absolutely perfect for them. They bought it furnished. They wanted the boat. They wanted the jet skis. And they were so happy that they actually gave me a gift, even though I didn't represent them, at the end of the transaction, which was, unexpected and amazing, because I obviously was just happy to be able to get my client moving on. And he was, upset to sell the place, because it really was a place he saw himself for a long time. But to get out of it in that short a time period with a little cash in your pocket, little walking around money, and getting out of the boat slip he had at the marina at the Coeur d'Alene Resort, and the jet skis. That was a really cool transaction. And he called me up and said, "Hey, I usually don't love paying real estate agents, but I really feel good about what you did for me here, and I feel like you earned your commission." And so that was a really nice deal for me. I felt really good about it, and it clearly made both parties really happy. And we ended up, even though we lost a great member of the community and hope to get him back at some point, I know we gained a really great family, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And, they say that it's good to be it's good to be lucky than good. And, in some cases, in that situation, you obviously you had a little bit of everything working for you, right? Where you were
exactly. You got to put yourself in those positions to be lucky, and then you still have to execute on it. Getting the list back that quickly was obviously fortunate. He thought I did a decent enough job on the first go around, but still had to make it happen for him, because if I didn't sell it, I don't think he was going to stick around with me forever, right?
No, for sure. But when I say lucky in that situation, we had a combination of things where you had obviously your expert level knowledge of the community, having grown up there, and then you were able to be in the right place at the right time to get that call. You picked up the phone, which I can't tell you how much value there is in connecting with someone, because in today's day and age, I mean, look, I just called somebody yesterday on a $2.5 million deal, listing agent. They still haven't called me. Literally, I called them yesterday, and I followed up with a text saying, hey, I just tried to call you. Please give me a call. He knows full well that we showed the property, just a couple hours earlier.
Yeah.
Here we are, nearly 24 hours later. I'm still waiting for his call, and but because you picked up the phone and you were knowledgeable, given you're an expert, right? That you said the right things. It was clear on the phone that you were the guy. So he flew out there. You connected with him. You did the right thing, looking out for his best interest throughout the entire process. You said yourself, by your own admission, that you're surprised that you got the deal done because maybe I'm reading between the lines here, but maybe his price was a little too low based on where you thought that it might trade.
Yeah.
And you got it done. And, life happens, right? People go into these things. I have a client who's similar position out of town. She sent me a listing the other day. Hey, what do you think of this? I said, well, it's the price is fine for the amount of space and location. But if you look at the layout, it's essentially a 1-bedroom. So it works for you. But let me ask you, who are we selling this to? Right? I don't really care if it's 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, or never. At some point, you or someone in your family is going to need to sell this property. And who do we sell it to? So if the market's white hot, sure, it'll sell. But if the market is normal to not so hot, then it's just not going to sell.
Yeah.
And so, in your case, you had a desirable property and you got it done and you had a little bit of wind in your sails. Why? Because you consistently do the right thing. And your knowledge and experience is only continuing to build. But I'm curious, in that deal, how did you get rid of the boat and the slip?
The showing itself, when we showed the property, it's a large property and it takes quite a bit of time to get it ready. You light gas tiki torches, you got to uncover all the lawn furniture, and it had these tea lights leading down from the lawn to the water, and the boat was there. And so, it was like, I gave everybody, because a lot of people ask the question, I see this house was just sold. Why is it for sale? Right? Because someone automatically thinks that something's wrong with it naturally.
Right.
Something.
Right. It's like the gorilla that's in the room.
Right. It's like, well, why is someone selling this in 2 months? That makes no sense. It looks like a great property.
Yeah.
So being honest and explaining, they had a family change and they're going to be moving across the country, and to show you how invested this person was, this is the brand new 6-figure boat that they just purchased that has almost no hours on it. Here are the matching jet skis. This was going to be, their spot, and a major circumstance change occurred. And, they started looking at the boat and realized that it was hard to get these boats, and that they loved the color. They loved the style. It fit for their family. It was a wake surfing boat, so you could take the kids out, wakeboarding, wake surfing. And it just all fit. It just was one of those things where the puzzle pieces all come down in the right way. And now, could we have sold the house, and would he eventually have been able to consign and sell the boat? Yes. But the fact that this all occurred, kind of in one fell swoop was great. And it just made everybody's life easier, because the new folks could move in to a furnished place with the water toys already ready. They didn't have to do anything. And the seller got to, minimize the sting of having to deal with, items that he owned or property that he owned in an area that he could no longer live, even though he, would have preferred to stay if he could have. So
Sure.
Just made it quick and painless, and everybody was happy. And, I still am in touch with both parties, which is great.
Yeah. And the fact that the buyers on the second transaction gave you a gift. I mean, if that isn't unusual, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we bonded over, I'm a big sports guy, and we bonded over that. And we both like shoes, like some unique Nikes and things like that. So he actually gave me a pair of Kobe Bryant basketball sneakers, which was really cool. It's definitely my favorite gift I've ever gotten from a client.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's very cool to get a pair of Kobe's. I can only imagine, what they might be worth. So
it was a fun deal. Yeah, it was awesome. On the subject of interesting transactions, you mentioned another one that I actually have going on right now. That's really cool is I mentioned to you previously, we're building a tower, which in New York terms, it's nothing, but for North Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, it's a pretty big deal. It's an 18-story residential luxury condo tower with lake views, and one of our buyers of that property, and it's going to be completed in the summer of 2025. It's called the Thomas George. He actually ended up coming through and buying an entire floor. So we are in progress of creating essentially a custom 360 unit.
Yeah.
It's going to be about 55 square feet.
Wow.
So really interesting getting to see that happen, get designed, and then I'll be able to get to see it built. We're getting to the 4th floor of the condo, pouring concrete right now. So that will be a really exciting one, and those are some great people that are going to have a really one-of-a-kind special property.
Now, are you handling the sellout of that, or are you representing that buyer?
I'm actually handling the sellout of that project. So it's I'm the sales agent for that. We have 32 out of the 60 units under contract right now.
Wow.
For about 74 million and change in escrow. We're doing non-refundable deposits of 25% and looking at a CO in the summer of 2025. So it's a big undertaking, definitely for us. Not a lot of towers get built in Coeur d'Alene, but this is going to be a pretty special one. Underground parking, private garages, really a resident-focused building with a little bit of commercial on the main level as well. So it's been a great learning experience for me. And as you alluded to previously, picking up the phone and also answering emails has been the biggest thing for me to help move this project forward. I can't tell you how many deals I've gotten from people that called me after saying, hey, I tried to reach out to an agent, they didn't get back to me. They didn't have any information, even though all that information is available in the MLS and also on my website. An unbelievable amount of leads that have come through that just say they can't get a call back. And for me, it's great because I'm motivated. I'm an aggressive guy, and people in kind of this younger generation a lot of times aren't that way. And it's been great for me because I try to get back to people as quickly as I can and get them the information they need. And I've found that people really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just got a listing for $1,200,000. And while she knew of me through all of the direct mail that we do, I was the 3rd agent that she had reached out to. And she probably would have listed with the first agent, but the first agent was what we call the agent of proximity, meaning the agent that was closest to her and where she lived. In fact, this other agent had a listing that was immediately next door. And we're not talking about houses where it could be, miles or hundreds of yards or, 100 feet. This is inches from her front door. Okay. So this agent had a listing that was just the neighboring apartment. And she said, oh, hi, you're listed with my neighbor. And I thought that it might be convenient to list my apartment at the same time because you could offer them as a potential combination. And, my neighbor spoke highly of you, so would love you to come by and have a look. So she came by and had a look, and, she didn't bring any material with her. She didn't bring any comps with her or anything. They just chatted. And she said, okay, well, I'll follow up with the comparable data and my marketing plan. And she didn't do that. And weeks went by and she never heard from her. And so she had been getting these letters in the mail from other agents saying, I have a buyer. We literally call them I have a buyer letters. And she knows that they're all BS, but she decided to pick one up, and she called this agent. And that agent came over, and it took a lot of effort to coordinate with this agent because they couldn't do it then. They couldn't do it then. They were out of town. And the agent told her, okay, well, I'll send you some additional material. Agent never did that. So then she called me, and I came over there with my material, my comparable data, and, I told her the truth. And she ultimately, after some back and forth with her husband, decided to, list a little bit higher than what where I had suggested, because I always tell people, I say, hey, this is where the data suggests that you should list and it's worth. But if you feel like listing higher, then we can list higher. And
It's your property at the end of the day, right? Yeah.
yeah. And you know what? I don't bat 1,000, right? The weatherman is wrong more than 50% of the time.
Sure.
And you know what? I'm looking at the data, and the data doesn't necessarily reflect market conditions going forward, because you can't necessarily know exactly what tomorrow is going to bring. And who's to say that someone might walk in and fall in love with it for these various aspects that the data doesn't take into consideration? Somebody might pay more for it. And so that's what happened. And she listed higher, and so we're listing it shortly, and we'll see what happens. So, but I actually did pick up the phone. I was available. I went over there. I did the things that I told her I was going to do.
Which seems, in theory, seems like a really easy thing to do, right? Like it's like, oh, I answered the phone. I did what I said I was going to do. And most people would think like, well, yeah, of course. But it's amazing how often that doesn't occur. It's happened to me more times than I can express. But thankfully, I'm on the side of, I will step in when someone else doesn't answer the phone. And especially with this project, I mean, I even had people call me that said, oh, I talked to another agent that said that this project isn't happening. And it's like, well, that person, I've never spoken to that person. They've never talked to me. I'm the lead on the project. And so people would just almost like say something just so they didn't have to deal with it. Like, well, I don't think that's actually happening. So sorry. And it's like, well, that person, let's just say the project wasn't happening. That person is clearly in the market for a condo.
Yeah.
So wouldn't you say, however, this may not be happening, but I could show you, these 6 on market properties today.
Right.
It's been a really interesting dynamic, seeing that and seeing people, that just let opportunities slip by, but it's all the more for those that don't, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's interesting. There's something that you and I have in common that you don't know. Can you guess what that is?
No, I can't.
It's something that's very unusual. Most people do it. You and I.
Oh, is it the coffee thing?
You and I are not coffee drinkers.
That is bizarre. People have always, I've never had a cup of coffee in my life, and people find that to be very strange. But I don't know that I've ever met someone who's in the same boat.
Yeah, I've tried. I've tried to drink coffee, but it's just something I don't. It's like an acquired taste. I don't have it.
Same. I mean, I've had sips of it, but I've never gone and ordered a cup. It's just not been. When I started working at that startup, a lot of the guys on the team were drinking 4 or 5 cups a day, and I was like, well, there's enough vices out there that I probably don't need to throw this one in the mix.
Right. Exactly. But what are some of the things that you do outside of the business that kind of your escape, if you will?
Yeah, I love to golf. Well, when I'm playing well, at least. So enter into some golf tournaments, do that. I've played in a couple in California, playing several up here. Something that I enjoy a lot. I do that with my dad and my brother, and then with friends as well. It's just kind of my main hobby. I like to stay active. Go to the gym, go on runs. I started today off with a little run and a cold plunge. That's big part of it is getting outside, getting active. And then in the winter, we have a ski place up at Schweitzer Mountain, which just recently got purchased by the group that owns the Icon Resorts. So we built a condo up there back in 2001, well before anybody knew about Schweitzer, and it was just a kind of a local mountain. So love to get up there, ski, enjoy. We didn't have a great ski year this year, just with snowfall. But I would say those, spending time with family and friends. My brother just had a baby in January, so get to spend time with my niece, which is awesome. She's wonderful. And that's the main thing. Yeah, I would say golf, staying active, skiing, and then traveling. I was actually in your neck of the woods back in March. Came for the Zach Bryan concert at Barclays. Went to a Nets game. Actually got rained out for the Mets opening day game.
Oh, cool. Well, you're trying to knock it all out, the trifecta.
Exactly. I don't have professional sports or major concerts up in Idaho, so I got to travel for that. So one of my closest friends works and lives in New York and lives in Hell's Kitchen. So always love getting to see him and experience all that New York has to offer and all the restaurants. It was awesome.
Well, I think this year might be a good one for the Yankees. So not sure how you got distracted and went out to Queens, but
no, we got rained out, so I never went. So I'll just come next time I come. I'll go the Yankees route. I'm always in for a live sporting event. I love that stuff. So
yeah, good friend of mine has traveled around the country going to various parks just for the sport of it. He's a Red Sox fan that grew up in North Jersey, which is hard to believe, but
yeah.
he just loves baseball, and he loves going to the different parks wherever he is, whether it be, he was out in Seattle recently, he got a game in, and Chicago he goes to a bunch because a couple of his kids have gone to school out there. So, goes down to Baltimore. I keep threatening to go down to Baltimore to visit my buddy Greg. So maybe this will be the year for that. So,
could be the time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So who are your teams, given that you live in Coeur d'Alene where there are no teams?
Yeah, great question. So after college, I lived in Seattle for 5 years, and that's kind of the closest, major sports metropolitan area. So I've been a Mariners fan, been a Seahawks fan, was a Sonics fan until they were taken from us too soon. Hope to get them back. And then, watch a little bit of the Kraken hockey as well. Yeah. But, I really have just, without having a true, home team, I just really love watching sports, NBA, NFL, MLB. So just golf, any of it. So it's just something for me. I do follow those, the Seattle teams for sure, but I'm always just in for a good game. If there is one. I actually went, would have been 2 years ago now. I went to the Mariners Astros 17 inning playoff game.
Wow. Huh.
And yeah, they stopped serving drinks in the 7th inning. So there's no rule, it turns out, if the game goes for 2 full games, they don't open back up. Right. So that was a tough one. It ended 1-0 and the Mariners lost. So one of those deals where you have to stick around because you're always one swing of the bat away from a game-winning walk-off home run, and you obviously can't miss that.
Right.
Yeah. But I went
straight extra inning 0-0.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It ended 1-0 in the 17th.
Right.
And then I went straight from that game. I took an Uber straight to opening night at the Kraken. So it was, in all total, I think I was in a stadium for like 9 hours. It was a lot, but it was a good bucket list. Check it off.
So speaking of the Kraken, I have a client of mine who is the mother of 3 looking around for an apartment for her daughter. And daughter works at one of the big banks here in the city. And, we're getting to know one another, going around different neighborhoods, looking at different apartments. And, she tells me about her other kids. And one of the kids is very into hockey growing up. And she had the family made a lot of sacrifices for his hockey,
career. Yeah.
If you can call it a career when somebody's in middle school, high school, yeah. Sure. But, he went on to, have decent amount of success, and he actually rose through the ranks and wound up in some special program in Michigan, families from New England. But it required such sacrifice that they literally had to move to Michigan for this kid's hockey. And so, he continued to excel. And unlike a lot of kids who, after high school, who knows what you end up doing, they probably don't continue it. Well, lo and behold, he winds up playing for the Kraken.
Oh.
And as we're working together looking for this apartment for her daughter, she said, "Oh, this weekend won't be good for me to see places because I have to go down to Nashville for some NHL event." And I said, "Oh, okay, cool." And the following week I followed up, "Hey, how was Nashville?" And she tells me that it was a special event where they recognize three rookies, sort of like a rookie of the year
ceremony.
And you don't know who's going to win when you go into it. You just know that you're nominated. And her son was nominated, and not only was he nominated, but he won. And so it was pretty cool to sort of just hear of the experience of raising this kid, and seeing him rise through the ranks, and then he's recognized by the entire league as being the best of his class.
So it did end up being a career in the end.
Yeah. He plays for the Kraken, and he was recognized this past year.
That's amazing.
2023, as being the
best rookie in the NHL.
Yeah, the best rookie. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And today is your birthday too.
It is. Yeah, it is. Big 3-4. So great way to start the day off. Chatting with you, and it's as you get older, birthdays kind of come and go, and it's a work day, and you just kind of do what you do. But it's always nice to switch it up a little bit and spend some time talking with your group and learning a little bit more about some interesting experiences you've had. I've enjoyed it, so I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, are you going to do anything special for your birthday?
Yeah, we're gonna go out and grab dinner with family here this afternoon, and I've got some work to do today, so not taking it off. But this weekend, after I think on Saturday, I just get together with some friends. Actually, we're getting a stretch of amazing weather. It's supposed to touch into the 80s this weekend, so I am really excited about that. It's been kind of gray and rainy here, so getting into the full swing of summer, and we may even get out on the water if it's that warm. I'm excited.
That's great. Very cool. So Hayden, I appreciate you joining us today on the Rubin Special. It's been a real pleasure hearing some of your experiences out there in Coeur d'Alene, and I really admire the fact that you're not only as successful as you are, but you're third generation, and that is clearly indicative of the integrity of the prior generations that have preceded you, from your grandfather coming over from Germany to Long Island, and then finding his way to Coeur d'Alene, and your dad following in his footsteps. So it's no wonder that you've been so successful, and I'm sure that you have an extraordinarily bright future ahead of you. And I look forward to coming out there and paying you a visit on the lake this summer.
Do it. Absolutely. Bring the golf clubs. And next time I come to New York, I'll give you a shout, and would love to catch up and see some of the stuff you're working on.
Cool. Sounds good, Hayden. Well, thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Appreciate it, Josh. Thank you.
You bet.
Hi, it's Josh Rubin with the Rubin team.